All right, we're good. Now it wants to work.
Oh my God! Does that little red number counter mean that we're recording?
I don't know. Does it?
Holy shit! It's happening.
It's something. It's definitely not nothing.
It's definitely not nothing.
So what are we looking at here?
So we're looking at a bunch of stuff on OBS, trying to understand how.
Not that screen.
Oh shit! Okay. Yeah. Sorry. We're looking at Spider-Man No Way Home because this is a movie that we both watched.
Yes.
You watched it fairly recently, and I watched it over a solid month ago.
It's still. It's a viable movie to talk about.
It's a very viable movie to talk about. So, my question to you is how, as a Marvel fan,
yes,
as a fan of the MCU and all that fun stuff, what was your opinion watching this movie? Like, going through it, like start, mid, and then like end.
So, my opinion is this start was kind of like, oh yeah, we're just catching up from where the last movie left off, and now we're going through. Here, let me go to an overview instead.
Well, it's more what your outlook, like your state of mind, actually, like going into the theater, watching it, and finishing up.
Woo. I would.
Do you want me to read the description of this
While you
think of a viable answer? I'll read the description of this. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, Peter asks Doctor Strange for help. When a spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. This is just a fucking origin story.
Yeah, it really is.
Like the entirety of like Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home is essentially just the 3-part origin story that Civil War started. Because we don't need to know how he got his powers. It's simple. We've been through enough Spider-Man movies.
We've been through
and media to like he got bit by a fucking bug. Arachnid.
This is our what? 8th Spider-Man movie?
So we had the Raimi trilogy. We had Andrew Garfield's 2 movies that never got a trilogy because it fucking died.
It died and something else happened.
So we got 5.
Politics-wise.
5 with that, plus another 3 after this. So yeah, about 8.
8,
movies.
not including Civil War and other movies that Spider-Man has been in, like specifically Spider-Man.
I don't
movies.
really count those as Spider-Man movies because it's
I
like,
don't either.
And like on-screen viewing, that's a whole nother can of worms because you're thinking like cartoons.
Well, that's why, like in Marvel, we've had 11 movies where Spider-Man has been in.
I mean,
actually,
to be fair, there was that. I don't know if it was a movie or a TV show, but I think it was in Japan. There was like this really, like this was old.
Yes.
Old Marvel. Like this is just this really shittily done Spider-Man where it's like,
yes,
the webs were just basically like those play silly strings, like the ones they actually made Spider-Man toys out of.
Yeah.
They used basically for that.
So, talking about this movie and like where it is in, I don't know, where do you like, if you had to rate this movie like in between like all the other Marvel movies, excluding like Infinity War and Endgame,
excluding the big 2 because that's just not fair at that point.
Yeah, no, they're going to be rated the highest because it's
the
end of an era.
It's the crescendo. It's the Empire Strikes Back of our time. Because that's what a lot of people basically said. It's like, this is the point in cinema where it cannot get higher for this generation.
Yes.
And if I could rate No Way Home, I would rate it just below Infinity War. Like this is like the cream. This is like the creme de la creme of everything you would want. It has the fan service for old and new fans. It has just the jaw-dropping visuals because, again, it's an MCU movie. 60 to 70% of it's CG. We all know Endgame was like 90. But there's nothing to take away from that. That just it makes the movie better in its own right. And it has callbacks. It has character growth. And yeah, I get it. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry.
If you haven't seen it already and it's been 3 months,
the board basically at the end of the movie gets fucking wiped. Like, not in the sense of characters dying, but in the sense of like everything Peter has built up
from Tobey Maguire's original Peter Parker to now, everything has been erased.
Well, everything in the MCU universe, because Tobey's universe and Andrew's universe, nothing's been wiped. All of this has been contained in the Tom Holland Spider-Man MCU universe, which is apparently Earth 616. I call bullshit on that because that's not how this works.
No. You can't just like put something like Earth 616 into
name dropping Earth 616. It's like the main reason Earth 616 is a thing is because if they ever want to do something new that isn't going to break their story, they'll put in Earth 616. But if what they do is new that will completely break their story, it's like Marvel Zombies for an example. It's like they will immediately offshoot that as another universe.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, with this, as a Marvel fan, actually as a Spider-Man fan, like this guy,
Tom Holland had a lot a lot of backlash from when he started because it's like nobody really thought he was going to be a good Spider-Man when he started.
The main problem with Tom, especially with some of his workmates, was literally like he just does not know how to shut the fuck up. Like to Tom, he'll never fucking hear this, but all due respect to him, but like some of his workmates would again politely and professionally say this kid just does not know how to shut the fuck up. Like how much shit just really got like indirectly spoiled because of this guy.
Yeah. Really, like there were times and like you could go on like the Graham Norton show and other things like that he's been a part of, and like Zendaya and other coworkers specifically just like get real like close to him, like right in his ear, and it goes, just please shut the fuck up for once. Like I don't know like where they like how they are on set. Obviously. Everybody probably knows by now Tom and Zendaya are together, and all that happens. But like movie wise, if like we had to put, and this has probably been said in other things, but if we had to put Toby, Andrew, and Tom together, and like rate them like what part of Spider-Man they're better at. It's always going to be, and most people have agreed with this.
Yes, I remember talking to you about this in like one of our many lengthy car rides from point A to point B. Andrew's Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man. Is the best like Spider-Man by himself.
Yes.
Toby's Spider-Man. Yeah, Toby's Spider-Man is the best Peter, and Tom Holland's is the jack of all trades when it comes to Spider-Man.
He's good at both. There are things that, like, obviously can be worked on, but if you had to take a good Spider-Man and a good Peter Parker and merge them together, you would get something close to Tom Holland.
Because the thing is, like, let's break it down a little bit with these three Spider-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who is the better Peter Parker, not the better Spider-Man. Not saying he's bad, but I'm just saying he's a better Peter Parker. His Peter Parker is like a carbon fucking copy of the comics Peter. He's just so...
He's so genuine.
Wholesome. He's genuine. He is, Peter Parker. We see him get kicked down. We see him be the nerd and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, then you go to Andrew, and it's like his Peter Parker. A lot of people complained was that he was too cool. He was too cool-headed. He had too many comebacks and stuff like that. And this was some of it was like before or maybe like mid during like after he got bit by the spider. It's like he became more like I guess macho for a Peter Parker, and you don't want that for a Peter Parker.
You want someone that's kind of like shy, laid back, like, oh hey, I'm not really who you think I am. But
I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
Like, and his Spider-Man, which is just something to behold, his Spider-Man is quippy. He's like, because that's another thing that Tobey's Spider-Man I feel like was a little more lackluster with. Like, Tobey's Spider-Man was like, he barely said any, like, he would barely say any, like, quips to enemies he'd fight. Like, it would be here and there, but it'd mostly just be, like, side comments. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man would, like, actively, obviously not swearing-wise, he would actively shit-talk, like, Lizard.
Yeah.
Like,
he would be like, a couple of the lines where, like, he is, talking to Harry, or talking to Doc Connors, or talking to Max, where he's like, oh yeah, Max, I just want to help you, and then he's like, oh, yep, nope, stop with the helping, like, let's get down to business.
He knows how to quip with himself. Like, that's another thing about Spider-Man. The dynamic between Peter Parker and Spider-Man
it's the
same person, but it's a flip of the coin.
Yes, it's the same thing. Like if we were talking about Venom, for a sense, where Venom's having conversations with it's Eddie and Venom always talking, and they always not.
You have the person who's trying to be the White Knight, trying to be the good guy.
Yes.
Then you have the person that's the the Black Knight, the lethal protector of sorts, and it's like that dynamic between, like, this guy is literally just trying to do good by the people he's wronged and just trying to do good in general, and then you just have this like complete alien who has an alien concept of how to deal with things, of literally just one of these best scenes, if we're going to touch on Venom a little bit, one of the best scenes from Venom that described this was after Eddie, like, beat the shit out of all the guys that went to his apartment, and Venom's just like, outstanding! Now, bite all their heads off, pile them up in the corner. And Eddie's just like, whoa, what the fuck? Why would we do that?
Why are we doing this? Like, this isn't something that I do. I get it was, like, your motivation that, hey, took over my body and said, oh yeah, let's beat up all these guys because they're coming into my apartment. But now we're going too far, and for Venom, that's not far enough.
That's lunch.
Yeah, that's like a normal everyday thing on Venom's planet.
Yeah, that's like
in general.
That's like him stopping at the fucking space Starbucks to go bite off the head of the barista, because that's just the norm in symbiote land.
It was the same thing with Riot. Now that we're like talking about Venom and like beyond that, it was the same thing with Riot, where Riot's just like, you know what, you're not gonna listen to me? Fine, off with you. And just giant, like, air swipes the whole area and like massacres multiple people.
Well, no, because that wasn't the whole thing was Riot doesn't give a shit. Sees, like, his outlook on humanity was Venom's first outlook on humanity. He does not see you as a person with living thoughts, feelings, and agendas. He sees you as food. And
he sees you as a host.
And if the cattle are starting to fight back, he's just gonna fucking put them down, which is what he fucking did. But touching back on Spider-Man, because we're getting a little off. We can talk about Venom after, but going back to Spider-Man, I really do feel like Tom is the jack of all trades. No, Tom is the jack of all trades when it comes to Spider-Man. He's able. You see him quip, but he's still. You
see him quip, but in situations like some of the movies where he's a genuine Peter Parker, is when he's like, he's going in and he's having quips with like the guy that he would order the sandwich from all the time.
Because that's his friend. It's like
but that shows that like, oh yeah, Peter Parker's not always
that's
this,
a little
like,
yeah
macho guy.
yeah
That's always
that's a little bit of more brain over brawn. Like that's a little bit of the Spider-Man showing from Peter Parker. That little confidence boost from Spider-Man. With Andrew, that was just too high of a confidence boost.
There was I'm Spider-Man all the time, no matter what.
Even when I don't have the suit, and that was the problem with Andrews. And these problems are not like indicative of
Who
like
they are.
what our outlook on them. We love all the Spider-Men. We love each and every single one of them because
especially the concept of the Spider-Man suit evolving to be able to like give Tom Holland more emotion with when he talks or when he acts.
Oh my god, I love that.
And then we go back to Andrew Garfield and Toby. Toby didn't have a lot of like Spider-Man-esque like acting, but he was the first Spider-Man, so you wouldn't really expect that.
He is the father Spider-Man. He is the guy that everyone goes to when they think of like, who do you think is the classic?
Yeah. He is, and back on Andrew Garfield with the whole like, oh yeah, the new spider suit letting Tom Holland show emotion. You see in the scene when Gwen Stacy is trying to help Andrew get to capture Electro, you see him having all of this emotion, but it's all face. It's all how he's acting. There isn't like this special Spidey suit to like open his eyes wider or like give more emotion than what he's actually being able to present.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like when it comes to where, like, for an actor, you have to. Your job becomes easier and harder the moment they put on a helmet. Veering off a little bit, The Mandalorian, for instance.
Yes.
Pedro Pascal, Jesus Christ, he has some chops because he is able to make a character who never takes his helmet off. And if you mind putting up a image of what the Mandalorian looks like, everyone knows what the Mandalorian looks like. We see this man take off his helmet in the entirety of 2 seasons twice. That's it. And one of it was taken off for him. This is the Mandalorian, like right here. And you never see this man take his helmet off except for 2 times in the entire show. And it's not like he's just quiet all the time. He talks. He actually speaks. Like, and
he's not like
to
Boba
convey
Fett where you occasionally got like a couple voice lines and you got the Wilhelm scream for when he died in the desert.
Also the Book of Boba Fett, which is out as well. But staying with the whole concept of maintaining anonymity while still presenting a character that people can like identify with, this guy has never taken his helmet off, yet throughout the entire series you see him convey emotion. Like in the first episode when he has that like giant fucking creature just latch onto his ship, the Razor Crest, and it's just like his bounty's just like, oh, we're gonna fucking die, we're gonna die, and we just see Mando like in his cockpit just tilting his head like, I guess I gotta go out there and deal with this shit again.
Yeah.
And like the micro movements, I think, is what really sells a character who has to literally force himself to wear a helmet to convey emotion. For an actor, micro movements are just a thing. Because Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, it's like they can't move their eye. They can't have the fucking kaleidoscope eyes or telescope eyes that
Tom Holland has.
that the Stark suit has, and stuff like that. So they have to
convey emotion through other ways.
I can't say they have to work harder, but the odds are a lot more stacked against them because they have to convey emotion through micro movements of their body. You know, simple gestures actually go a long way. So simple micro movements actually go a long way when it comes to showing what a character feels. And Jesus, when it comes to Tom's wow, I'm just there's I really don't have much to go off of by myself, because currently the yeah, wow, it is really hard to talk by yourself.
It really is. Now you realize my struggle when I'm not doing this and I'm like streaming on my own for like 2 hours.
Well, now that we basically have a forceful cut, let's try to touch back on mainly the questions that we both asked each other, which was your question asking me. It's like, how would you rate Spider-Man No Way Home? I rate it as creme de la creme. Like, it is top tier.
It's top of notch.
As a Marvel fan, as a Spider-Man fan, and as a Daredevil fan, in some cases, of the actual Netflix series, you get cameos. You get all this shit. We have J. Jonah fucking Jameson shit-talking this Spider-Man, which is something we needed to begin with.
Yeah, because a lot of, like, once you saw Jameson in the original Spider-Man, once he left that, like, that was it. You didn't really, like, see him ever appear in the movies before, or any of the Andrew movies. He didn't appear in.
Yeah, no, he didn't exist in the Andrew movies, and, like, him coming back as J. Jonah Jameson for No Way Home, or at the end of Far From Home,
yeah,
that's him back. Like, he's back now. But can we double back on the question I asked you?
Yeah. When
you actually went to go watch it? Because my mentality throughout the entire movie was just like, yes, all of it, yes, completely.
There was only a few things, like, throughout the movie that I didn't not that I didn't enjoy, but was more or less a surprise when it came, because of when going in, and, like, the beginning of the movie, it started differently than all of his other movies. It started with really, like,
it started where you left off.
It started where you left off, which is something that a lot of movies don't do. Not a lot of movies have, like, started exactly where you left off. Like, there's been a gap.
Yeah, that is a good point, because I feel like they couldn't do that if they tried. Like, there needs to be that initial chaos because the world just found out you're Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, that, like, besides, like, finding out that it's Spider-Man, even if they didn't find out, if you just jump cut straight to a time where, oh yeah, now they know you're Spider-Man, like, where is the in-between? So
you need that chaos.
So I get it that it was a good design choice. It
felt jarring.
Yes, it felt really just jarring seeing everything happen, not happen over again, but, like, oh hey, shit's gonna go down right from the break.
Well, be happy it's a sequel doing this and not a standalone movie like some others. Like, they will legitimately, because that's the thing they'll do. What they'll do is they'll legitimately throw you into the chaos initially, and then they'll do, like, the whole, well, this is how I got here thing, and they'll flashback, like, a day ago or a week ago, and basically do the lead up until you get back to the point you were at in the start of the movie, in the middle of the movie. But it
was the same thing with the Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse, where, oh yeah, we know Miles is Spider-Man, but, and then, like, in the middle of the movie, it's like, now they're giving all the backstories of all the other Spider-Mans. Like, we kind of figured what happened, except for the pig. The pig was kind of weird.
Well, no, the pig is actually a really good story, but I don't want to get into that one just yet.
We won't get into that yet. But that where they start going into flashbacks in the middle of the movie, I don't think it would work for this movie because of all the action in it. Like, say the beginning of the movie jumps straight to, like, him going to Stephen Strange and saying,
we need to fix this shit today.
We need to fix this, but you have no clue what he needs to fix.
Exactly. So what you can't for a sequel that's this ambitious, for a sequel that's literally left off originally with the entire world finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, you can't just glean over that with a forward jump, like with a forward time jump, you know? We need to be at the exact moment that he was when he found out, like, oh shit, he's Spider-Man. Because we literally see him go, what the fuck? And then the movie just ends. You know? I feel like it was a really good choice for them to actually do that, because we are in the chaos with Peter and with MJ as the world just found out Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and we see the repercussions of the world finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Like, it screws over
over
MJ,
him.
It screws over Ned. It screws over him.
Screws over Happy, May. It screws over everyone, and I feel like the only one that hasn't been screwed over is fucking Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
He's like loving it, dude. He's like, can I be your best friend now?
Since everyone knows who you are and all the work you've done. And
since you're Spider-Man?
It's terrible because Flash, as people probably already know, Flash in every movie has been just this asshole. This giant figuratively and literally asshole. Yeah,
like,
because in other movies he was a big... Like,
he was a big mother.
Jock.
You know, he was a jock. He was a big motherfucker. And to go with a scrawnier bully, which actually is more realistic.
It's more realistic for Tom Holland's sake. For Andrew's sake, not really.
Andrew would have punted him across a football field.
Yeah.
If it was the Andrew Garfield Peter Parker, he would have literally just been like, to the moon.
Pretty much. Like, going back to it, getting a little off topic, going back to, like, seeing how both Toby and Andrew handled their separate Flash Thompsons as Peter Parker. While Toby was scared because Flash was bigger and he was the jock, there's Andrew where he's like, you know what?
I'm gonna bully the bully.
I have spider powers now, so you know what? I'm gonna fuck around with him a little bit and see what happens.
And that's another thing of, like, what
I'm going to fuck around and find out is pretty much what happened with Andrew.
That's another difference between, like, the Toby and Andrew Peter Parkers when they both initially found out, oh shit, I have superpowers. Like, you started seeing Peter like Peter didn't know he really had superpowers when Flash Thompson was, like, trying to fight him, and literally you can see, like, the surprise in his face when he just launched Flash Thompson across a fucking hallway with a single punch, and he legitimately says, like, I don't want to fight you, screw off. Like,
just leave me alone.
He didn't want confrontation because he doesn't really have a gauge on what's going on with him, whereas with Andrew's Peter, it's like, oh no, I have superpowers now. Oh, I'm gonna fuck with this, like, bully that's been. I'm gonna mess with this bully that's been just like. Yeah, I'm just gonna mess with this bully that's been, like, fucking with me for the better part of my high school, career. Oh man, this is one of those times where I'm by myself again because he just got called by someone, so I'm not gonna leave it with silence. I am gonna talk, but it probably won't be about the topic, so he won't be left out. My opinion on this movie is the same opinion on most Marvel movies. Marvel movies cannot get fucked up. They really can't. They can, but if you manage to fuck up a Marvel movie, that is a big problem. Because with how famous a Marvel movie has gotten, you literally have fans that will all at once go to this movie and be like, this is either the best movie ever, and they will dick ride it till the very end. Which I'm probably going to be covering this with Adrian as well, but again, this is my opinion. watch the movie first and then critique it. With Marvel, the stakes are high. Oh, welcome back.
Oh, welcome.
I was just basically talking about how much, like, Marvel can't fuck up their movies.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they're incapable of fucking up their movies. We've seen them fuck up their movies, but with how high expectations are, because after Endgame, after Infinity War, we've seen the pinnacle of what it can be, and now it's just downhill. Like, this is the peak. Unless Avengers 4 does some, like, wonky shit, nothing will ever match Endgame and Infinity War, because Endgame and Infinity War literally had, like, 10 plus years worth of build-up to this.
Mm-hmm. And now we have it to where it's like, if it went downhill now, a lot of people would be upset because Marvel.
But we wouldn't be surprised because, like, look at, like, it's hard. Like, when you keep outdoing yourself, which is what Marvel's currently doing, it's gonna get to a point where you're gonna disappear up your own ass. Because if you can say you took a movie like No Way Home, it is a great movie. I'm not joshing it in any way. I fucking loved it. Right? Yeah. Take this movie and compare it to the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah, no, this is taking like, if you put this directly towards like the beginning movies for like even Tom Holland's beginning movie, you take it in front of the Winter Soldier, in front of the first Iron Man movie, in front of the Incredible Hulk. Like, if you put it side by side with those movies, there's so much of a gap where you wouldn't think Marvel would ever get to this point of production-wise because of how it started.
It's not even a case of production-wise, but it's a case of storytelling. After I watched Endgame, something clicked. Something legitimately clicked that didn't click in Infinity War, because I'm just fucking stupid. But what clicked for me was, after watching Endgame, I watched Endgame and thought to myself after the fact, like, this is the comics.
Yeah.
This isn't just like, what would Marvel be like if it was set in the real world? Like, this is legit.
The comics and made it a movie.
This is legit shit that would be in a comic book, like massive interdimensional calamities and shit like that. And yes, they did take inspiration from comics, but again, they took it and weaved it into their real world, so that way it didn't feel too jarring. But now they're at a point where it's like, we just had a giant purple alien wipe half the universe, and then the Avengers went back in time to unwipe the half of the universe, and then fought this guy. And there's like all this shit like Cap's worthy with Mjolnir, and Iron Man does this old snap sacrifice and shit like that. And once you get after that point, if you really did pay attention to all of the post Endgame content, you can see, even with Falcon,
you can even see it in the first Iron Man movie when Steve and Tony are talking, and
Steve and Tony.
Yeah.
In the first Iron Man movie?
No, in the first Avenger movie.
In the first Avengers movie, yeah.
In the first Avengers movie, where Steve and Tony are talking, and Steve says to Tony, "You're not the guy to put your life on the line." And there was a lot of like subtle hints throughout every movie. Gave you an idea of what would happen.
Whether these subtle hints were meant to be there or just not to, they capitalized. They capitalized on these subtle hints because they realized now, oh shit, our viewers like really pay attention. It's not just a blockbuster movie when you can just turn your brain off and go, ooh, pretty explosions. Like, that's the thing that MCU does that a lot of other mainstream superhero movies can't do as well. Yeah. The amount of just connectivity between sequels, because there are like, what, 30 plus MCU movies now?
Yeah.
Not just, and not even just counting the new TV series, like what I was
Not
trying to say.
counting like WandaVision and stuff like that.
But
Just
another
counting the movies, starting from Iron Man to No Way Home.
we went from a guy who got captured by the Ten Rings, basically, built a suit and an arc reactor in a cave, just like the comics, but still grounded. Like, the suit wasn't like, haha, I can fly and do a bunch of shit. Like, he can fly. He didn't fly. He rocketed.
No, he walked, and if he needed to get somewhere fast, he had to use giant rockets to get there.
He shot himself up in the air like a missile. Like, he didn't fly. He fell with style, basically.
Yes,
like,
he was falling, but with style.
But you go from that, which is like as real world as Iron Man can get, even with his other suits. Like, you see incrementally throughout the MCU him making his suits better and better.
Him going from a titanium suit that he built in a cave to having
nanotech.
Yeah, having nanotech.
That has energy-based shields, energy-based weapons, and stuff like that. Because his repulsors weren't originally designed to be weapons. They were designed for flight stabilization, and he just pointed it at some fucking glass and went, "Oh, I made that explode!" Like, but going from Iron Man 1, which is as grounded as it's gotten, all the way to, like, his main thing was just like, I want to protect the people I put in harm's way. Yep. His weapons got out in the wild, and now he's fighting another Iron Man suit. That was the crescendo of the Iron Man 1. And to go from there to where it is now, where it's like, hi, I'm Spider-Man. The entire world just figured out I'm Spider-Man. I'm going to go to my wizard friend, Doctor Strange, so he can cast a spell that will wipe everyone's memory on that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Spell goes wrong. Now a bunch of dimensions are just bleeding into my dimension. And once you get to a point, like, you can't go back.
Yeah.
You are, after Endgame, they can't go back. They have to keep pushing it. Because what else can they do?
How far can they go without completely just exhausting all their ideas?
Without completely disappearing up their own ass.
Yeah.
Because the best way to see this is just looking at all the post-Endgame content that isn't just movies. Like, look at the shows. You have shows that are you have shows that would be grounded with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and mainly just the Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. Hawkeye was the most grounded out of all of them because you can feasibly see that happen, but it's still like, you have all these amazing set pieces. You have Kingpin surviving explosions. Like, this is still comic book land with it's more comic book land with a real life skin, and that's not a problem.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry if I'm making this sound like it's a problem. It's really not. It's awesome, and I love it, and I'm glad they're here, but how long are they going to be here and not fuck it up?
I love the concept of it, because instead of everybody going out, and some people don't like watching don't like reading the comic books, now they're taking what they found in the comic books and what people have previously wrote and just putting a flesh skin on it, to where it's like, now you can see it in full bloom,
like
to what it should be,
like with how
we put it in a cinematic.
Yeah, like with how WandaVision sprinkled in some like shit from the House of M comics.
Yes.
Oh my god, when I basically saw that, I was just like thinking to myself, this is clever,
but it wasn't slick.
It wasn't slick. Like,
you knew it was going to happen.
You knew with what she's lost and with how this story is going. Once you found out that it was her doing this all along, then you started to really think, yeah, this is House of M, which is still fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, none of this takes away from either the comics or the movies. And bringing them together doesn't really do anything that's bad. I'm really happy they marketed Spider-Man No Way Home well.
Yes.
Because a big movie like this needs big marketing. Because it's the roster you already know. Like, you know them all by heart.
Yeah. especially all the big bads that were supposed to be there. Uh, Fuck Venom, but
Okay. I still love the idea that Venom would have been a part of the Sinister Six if he didn't get ass blasted wasted. Like him and Brock just stayed like near where they were when they teleported into Tom's universe and
where
just
did they
got
even,
drunk.
Where was
They were
the
like
exact...
they were like on like the fucking Caribbean island or some shit like that. They were on like an island resort because Eddie's now a fugitive.
Oh yeah. So yeah, in their universe, they were on a Caribbean island, and then it's like, oh yeah, time to go to Tom's universe, and you're on the Caribbean islands. So it would still...
You're on a more lush Caribbean island.
Yeah, which I feel like made sense, but at the same time, it would have taken Venom so long to get to where he needed to go.
Yeah, honestly, you can't just like, considering the fact that he was flat broke basically. And he was probably running a tab at the bar he was getting drunk at. And he just disappeared.
He 100% ran a tab at the bar, and then he just disappears once it's over.
Imagine being that bartender, and it's just like you were looking at this guy just asking you a bunch of questions about your universe, like he's not in said universe, and it's just like he's actively running a tab that's like over $100 because with the metabolism of both Venom and Eddie combined, it would take quite a bit for them to actually get drunk. Like the bar tab that they're running was easily over 100.
Yeah, the fact that you see at the end of the movie is when Venom and Eddie are like,
we are drunk.
Yeah, wasted. It's like that took the whole movie, and they got teleported in half an hour into the movie. So for 2 full hours, what was supposed to be like 3 days in the movie.
I'm sure they didn't spend 3 days in the bar just running a tap. Like the better part of a day, probably.
Yeah, probably. Like, right when the fighting started, yes.
The first thing he fucking does is like, oh, I'm in a new universe. Time to see if the alcohol tastes different here. Like...
A lot of people are like, he's like, oh yeah, he's gonna test his alcohol tolerance because he's in a new universe, so he thinks it's different. Like, that was like a really funny idea where it's like, oh, Venom's just like, oh yeah, we're in a new universe, time to test our alcohol tolerance, and it's so
see
funny.
If it's any different in this universe.
See if I can get drunk slower or faster from when I was actually in my own universe.
Oh man, yes, I know. We were kind of gleaning over the fact that drunk Venom and Eddie left a little symbiote droplet on the bar counter. Here's your tip. But I mean, that's nice to see. We'll hopefully be getting
Become one of us.
Become one of us. Here's your bar tip. It's really nice to see that we'll actually be getting hopefully a Venomized Spidey. And I hope
I feel just because of the Stark suit, I feel like we won't get a Venomized Spidey, but I feel someone like
Stark
Flash...
suit's gone.
Well, yeah, that's gone. But like
Stark suit's gone. Iron Spider's gone.
Yeah, but Peter's smart enough to remake it.
He's not smart. Nanotech.
He's smart enough to try.
Yes, he's smart enough to replicate a suit that probably costed over $1 billion to create because it's hyper advanced nanotechnology. Like,
I mean, he's quote friends with Strange now. Maybe Strange could put
Strange doesn't know who the fuck Peter is. He knows Spider-Man, not Peter.
No, he would know both.
Nope.
No?
Everyone in that universe, including Strange, would forget that Peter Parker exists. And he even said, even me, I'll forget that you exist.
I'll forget that you exist, but if Peter went as Spider-Man to Strange, Strange would know.
Yeah, and Peter just unmasks in front of Strange. Hi, I'm Peter Parker. Who are you? I'm Peter Parker. I'm that one kid like down the hall. It's like, I have never heard of you in my entire life. But cool, I guess.
Cool, thanks for telling me you're Spider-Man, I guess. But
that's like the ultimate secret identity though. because no one knows who the fuck, like, no one literally knows who the fuck Peter Parker is. So he could just go in front of Times Square and be like, hi. And people are just going to look at him like, who the fuck is this guy?
Everybody would assume, like, hey, we know the face of Spider-Man now, but nobody knows.
No one
what
knows
the face
who,
of
like,
Spider-Man.
Yeah, no one knows who
to.
Peter Parker. No one knew that it was like the prodigal IT son of Tony Stark. Like
the adopted son to Tony Stark. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, off topic of that. So about what was supposed to be the Sinister Six. Let's talk about that for a little bit and who was a part of it.
Okay, honestly, I know he wasn't too popular with how he looked in the movie. No, I was honestly hoping Rhino would be in it.
Yeah.
I understood why.
I feel like if Rhino was in it, Andrew would have more of like
shit to talk.
Yeah, I feel like he would, because he didn't talk a lot of shit to Max, and he didn't talk a lot of shit to Dr. Connor.
Because both Dr. Connor and Electro, like, they're both victims, more or less. Like,
they were both victims of a mad scheme that they had not a really big part of.
Honestly, if you really think about it, they're both just victims of Oscorp. Like Electro more in the literal sense.
Max fell into a vat of electric eels and got the electric power.
And then Connor is just like, I want to recreate, like, stuff like this. I want to recreate. And some bullshit in Oscorp was just like, no, fuck you. We're going to take all your research. And Connor's is just like, you dicks.
It's like, don't do that. I've spent years.
I've been working for years with one fucking arm on this. You have any idea how hard that is to do?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I feel like if Rhino was added, not a lot. I don't feel like there would be a lot of shit that was talked to Rhino. It would be more of Andrew. Like, we would go back to the second Amazing Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield, and I feel like we would just jump straight into that fight if Rhino was a part of it. Because it's like, oh yeah. Also, talking about how Ned... Oh, I feel a magic tingle, and now you're a wizard.
He feels the Ned tingle.
Yeah.
If Peter has the Peter tingle, Ned feels the Ned tingle.
Ned has the finger tingle.
The finger tingle. Oh, God. You should get that checked out.
Yeah, you really should. You should get that checked out. It might be a disease. Well, my mom said we were a part of like an ancient like wizard, and it's like, no, you should probably just get that shit changed. And then when he steals the thing from Doctor Strange, it's like, oh yeah, you have that, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna attempt.
He didn't even steal it. Peter did.
Yeah, Peter stole it.
Peter just stole it and gave it to Ned.
Yeah, Peter stole it so Strange couldn't get back from, the infinite dimension that was in it, and it's really funny because it's like, oh yeah. So going through the movie, starting at the beginning of No Way Home.
Probably where we should have started the conversation, but
you
yeah.
know what? It never happens like that. Our conversations never happen like that. It never happens with a start. We always have to try to kick it back to the start.
That's fair.
But starting at the beginning of No Way Home, where
back to what were we talking about? We were talking about
starting No Way Home.
Starting No Way Home. We already talked about how it started. It started off with like the most jarring and perfect beginning. And it progressively shows, like, the repercussions of the world finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it goes to him going to Doctor Strange, basically being like, hey, I am actively ruining my friends' lives by just existing. Can you please make it to where the universe, like, can you make it to where, like, the world forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? Fucks with the spell. Like, Doctor Strange's like, I got you, homie.
Yeah,
and
Doctor Strange was ready to, cast the spell.
Or sorry, not Doctor Strange, Steven.
Steven Strange.
We saved the universe together. You should call me Steven.
Yeah. So going to have that conversation, Peter is just like Peter's being Peter, where he has a lot of things where it's like, yeah, I don't want MJ to forget, I don't want Ned to forget,
my mom to forget.
May, or my, Aunt May.
I don't want my pet. I don't want my pet hamster to forget. Like,
yeah, like, so as Stephen Strange is making this spell, Peter's always like trying to rewrite it, and then Strange is fixing it, and he's like, all right, you either leave it how it is, or I'm not doing the spell.
No, it's not even like all right, you leave it how it is, or I'm not doing the spell. He kept fucking with the spell until the spell broke, and it started everything. And then Stephen had to contain it. And Stephen's just like, he had to contain it, and it's just like, you altered the spell like 5 times. He's like all pissed off at Spider-Man. It's like, Steven, I'm sorry. It's like, no, call me Strange, like call me Doctor Strange, or call me Sir, like what we was calling him originally in the movie. And it just goes to like, didn't you like call MIT? You could have called and recommended MJ and Ned to MIT. And I'm pretty sure they would have, like, you're telling me you went to the sorcerer who can like have universe altering spells,
and not just have the like,
not just try to at least call like, not
MIT
have the
first. Normal idea of like calling MIT. It's like, hey, so I don't care if you don't take me into MIT, but at least,
well, it's comic book land.
Reconsider MJ and Ned, and it's like Stranger's just looking at him. You didn't think of this first?
And he literally just slams the door in Peter's face. Oh man! But then as if you watch the movie, all the villains start
pouring in. Not in like the best way. Like, oh, you see the Green Goblin bomb, and you see Dr. Ock when Peter goes to try to catch up to the MIT official. And
you see like the two main like A-list Spider-Man villains get introduced see the two main like A-list Spider-Man villains get introduced fighting Peter. You get Lizard introduced because Doctor Strange is just like, I found this guy because he was trying to maul me, so he's in that cage now.
I found this guy in the sewer because I went down there looking for and I heard noise, and I found this idiot, as you see Dr. Connor as Lizard against a magic wall.
Yeah. And then it's just like, oh, this Electro and Sandman near like the power line station. Peter.
Yes, that's where Andrew Garfield's Peter.
No, not Andrew Garfield's. It was normal Peter.
Peter. That's where like the last time you would have seen Electro. That's what I mean. That's where Electro ended up dissipating.
No one knows where the fuck Sandman was.
Oh yeah, no. Apparently Sandman was he was helping stop Electro, but Sandman just appeared out of thin air. Like, he was there looking at Electro like, yeah, I feel this force. And then Peter's like, are you a friend? And then, yeah.
I still love how, like, you have all the villains that are like, fuck this, I want to stay in this universe. I'm powerful. Like, Electro has the arc reactor, Ock has the nanotech, Goblin's just Goblin.
Goblin's an enhanced goblin.
And it's just like, Lizard's like, ooh, look at all these humans I can infect with my lizard virus.
Yes.
And you just have Sandman.
Yeah, the only one that didn't have a purpose being there is Sandman.
Yeah, you just have Sandman sitting there. It's like, dude, I just want to go home and, like, be with my daughter. Like, my dying daughter.
Yeah.
Like...
Poor, what is his name?
Flint Marko.
Yeah, poor Flint. Poor Flint getting trapped to a secondary universe.
For God knows how long. Because here's the thing. Marko doesn't die fighting Spider-Man. So not every one of these villains die fighting Spider-Man. The majority of them do.
Marko didn't, and...
I think I understand how Lizard did. Because the reason why, and I want to touch on... I want to make this a segue. The reason why is Andrew's Spider-Man killed him. And here's my reason why. Andrew literally said in the movie to Peter, it's like, after Gwen died, I was a wreck and I just quit being Spider-Man. But I kept going because I knew it's what she would have wanted.
She would have wanted, and at some point, I stopped pulling my punches.
Yeah, it's at some point he grew bitter and he just stopped pulling his punches. And I feel like that moment where he said, all right, fuck it, all out.
That's when he probably found Connor.
Connor probably escaped again, and he
was trying to work on the serum again. And I feel like Andrew and Connor had another interaction as a better lizard. But at that point, if Andrew's not pulling his punches anymore,
oh no, he's pulling his punches now. Like he's learned his lesson. Like you don't be the type of person that Andrew's Spider-Man is. Like Andrew's Peter, he literally said, like, yeah, I fucked up, I got bitter. Him recognizing the fact that he fucked up and got bitter is again showing the idea, like, I shouldn't be pulling my I should be pulling my punches.
I should be pulling my punches because it's the right thing to do. I'm not a vigilante. I'm trying to actually...
I'm not a lethal protector. I'm Spider-Man.
I'm not Batman. I'm Spider-Man.
No, not Spider... I'm not Venom. I'm Spider-Man. Batman doesn't kill. He breaks bones, but he doesn't kill.
I mean, he got his own bones broken, but that's besides the point.
By Tom Hardy as well.
Yes, by Tom Hardy. Which is funny because we talked about...
What will break first? Your spirit or your back?
Which is funny because we talked about Tom Hardy a little bit, and then we jumped to a separate topic, and now we're talking about Tom Hardy again because...
Tom Hardy's been around.
Tom Hardy, if he hasn't done your favorite, villain or voice, then I don't know who your favorite villain is.
Fucking, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Peaky Blinders.
Yes.
This is like
Peaky Blinders.
Oh my god, Tom Hardy playing that fucking character. I forgot his name, but he literally just went, like, I'm a good man, but my hands are the devil's hands, and he says this as he's like choking someone out.
It's like the scene that you would get from a normal bad guy monologue where he's like, I'm a really good guy in person, but my hands kill.
But it's just like, it's Tom Hardy, so he just delivers 110,000% into everything he does.
Yes, he really does.
Leaning over Tom Hardy, what I was mainly getting into when I was talking about Andrew's Peter Parker saying I got bitter, is the character development of these of the three Spider-Men.
Yes.
The main thing obviously being the lead Spider-Man, which is Tom's Spider-Man. And I'm sorry that we're not calling them Peter 1, Peter 2, and Peter 3. It's hard. So we call them by their actor names.
And you know what? If we wanted to call them by Peter 1, 2, and 3, Toby would be 1, Peter would be 2, and Andrew would be 3, because that's how I would... Toby
would be 1, Tom would be 2, and Peter would be... Andrew would be 3, because you said Peter would be 2.
Yeah.
So you're still writing off Tom as the definitive Spider-Man by calling him Peter.
Yes, he... In most people, the older generation of people, it's Toby. And then, kind of our generation, but really, a little bit older of our generation.
Nah, here it is. Millennials... Toby. Gen Z, Andrew. Zoomers, Tom.
Yeah. I honestly, no. I feel like
is that Spider-Man from Fortnite?
I feel like Gen Z has a good mix of both Andrew and Tom.
Well, that's because of the timeline. To be fair, Andrew's Spider-Man came out when I was starting middle school. I'm 21.
Yeah, that's
I'm almost 21, and it's
yeah, and I'm sitting here being almost 24. So I was going, and at my point there was Toby's Spider-Man was just finishing when I started getting into Marvel, when I saw the first Captain America movie, when I saw the first Iron Man movie, when those originally came out,
The first...
I was just hitting middle school, maybe ending elementary school.
When I saw... Because here's the thing. Like, of your favorite Marvel character, we'll ask that question later.
We'll ask that question at the end.
But it's like, for me, it was always a three-way tie. Spider-Man would be in the lead because of just how much, like, how much the feels, man. How much Spider-Man as a concept means to me, of just literally this nerdy fuck.
This nerdy fuck that
got superpowers, yes. And is like, I'm not gonna be an asshole with these powers. I actually want to be a cool guy, and it's just
want to be a cool dude, man.
And it's like, then you have Iron Man, who's like this smart nerdy fuck that's just like, huh.
I'm a millionaire playboy philanthropist, which is later in his lifetime.
Yeah, but still, it's just like eventually he becomes, the main thing of Iron Man is just like, I want to protect the world from mainly my fuck-ups.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the problems that you see Iron Man fight are problems that's stemming from Stark Industries.
Yes. They stemmed from, like, him creating too many suits, or him having too massive ideas for himself.
Or him creating an AI that went haywire. Actually, in the comics, Pym made Ultron.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't Tony. So that was more of an MCU thing, because Pym wasn't around.
Yeah.
But then you go to Cap. Cap, like, for me, the hierarchy is this. Iron Man's third, Cap and... Like, Iron Man's second, Cap and Spider-Man are tying for first.
Yeah.
Because...
That's always how it's
the thing that sold me on Captain America wasn't just, oh, look at all these awesome martial arts, or, oh, look at all this bullshit that I can do with my shield. My main thing that I loved about
was
Cap
where he came from.
Was not just the 1940s.
No,
yeah.
like in a sense where he wasn't the best. He was small, he was scrawny, and he got lucky, but it really wasn't luck.
The thing about Cap, which really hit me in the feels, was like, it's the whole same thing with like a unbreakable code of honor, an unbreakable, like, wanting to just be a good dude. Like, that's Steve. Like, I like Captain America not because of Captain America. I like Captain America because of who Steve Rogers is as an individual. He is the ultimate version of what a good person can be. And no, I don't say ultimate version of what a good person can be because of his race or his ethnicity. No, his morals. Like, his actual morals. Like, he does not care where you're from or who you are. As long as you're a good person, you're a good person. Like, that's why you see him so, like, seamlessly accept... Because, again, this is a guy that was born in the 1940s. And in Endgame, you see him, like, basically in this, like, post-blip meeting of, like, not blip, but, like, post-Thanos snap meeting of, like, talking to everyone. Kind of like a help group he was in Endgame. Mm-hmm. And, like, you just see one of the guys talking about, like, oh, I was with my boyfriend. Like, two guys... immediate red flag for anyone that was born in the 1940s, because that wasn't a thing that was widely accepted. But you just see him not even batting an eye or giving a look. Like, he's just like, it's
cool. You're being...
Now, he doesn't even acknowledge it. He's just like, awesome. Like, crying helps, but you gotta keep pushing forward and stuff like that. Like, that is Cap. That is Steve fucking Rogers. The main thing, like... You could take that serum away from him, and he would still be Captain America in my eyes.
The only like, taking the serum away would still make him Captain America. Obviously, he wouldn't look like, he wouldn't do the things.
He wouldn't be yoked as fuck, but like, he'd still be Captain America because Captain America isn't the serum, and it's not even the shield. Captain America is the man behind the shield.
Mm-hmm. Always. And it always has been. That's why when you see like that's when you see like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when they have the new Captain America, like Bucky's there and he's like, "Oh, have you ever jumped on a grenade?" Like, Steve wasn't yoked at this point. and he genuinely would have thrown his life on the line for a grenade that
to protect
would have killed him.
To protect, by the way, to protect an entire platoon of like individuals
that didn't like him,
who were actively like shit talking and bullying this guy for joining the army because he's too scrawny. Like,
but you know, at the end of the day, brains is over bronze 90% of the time. Like in that first movie, he has brains over brawn. Like yes, he has the brawn, but he does not use it as much as he could. He could genuinely, probably, without even stopping the other forces of Red Skull, he could have really just said, you know what, you guys take out the forces of Red Skull, I'll see you guys later, and go fight Red Skull on his own. He could have did that and not thought beforehand, but he didn't. He's like, you know what, we're going to take all this shit down and make him as weak as we can.
We're gonna do this together, because that's the thing. He doesn't want the fame. He doesn't want the glory. He didn't care. He wanted to get the job done, and he wanted to make sure that people were safe. And he wanted to make, because he didn't like bullies. Red Skull was a fucking bully. And that's literally one of the best questions that was asked to Steve. It's like, oh, you want to join the war? Go kill some Nazis. And he's like, no, I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from. Like that.
That speaks volume to anybody, and it doesn't matter who you are.
We're not saying go murder your bully. What we're saying is, like, he's not in it for the glory of going to kill some Nazis or something like that.
He's not in it to go and say, oh yeah, look at what Captain America did. He killed 10,000 people and stopped Red Skull, and he got rid of this ship and buried it in the ice. Like, no, that wasn't Steve.
That's shit he's done, but like
that wasn't what he was about.
Yeah, and I like how we went off on a tangent about Steve Rogers in a conversation that was basically stemmed from Spider-Man.
Yes, but so to wrap up about the three like beginning,
mid, and end. Like, what was your mentality? Because my mentality for the entirety of the movie was just 2 words: fuck yeah. Like
pretty much. Like my mentality through the movie is I knew a little bit of what was gonna happen.
Everyone did.
Obviously, there were spoilers all over the internet.
And
like once it was out, people were spoiling the hell out of it.
Even if there weren't any spoilers, all 3 actors for all 3 Spider-Men played way too fucking coy. Like,
they did.
You knew they were in. They knew they were in.
Something else that happened before the movie, and getting off track as we do normally, but one thing about the movie was like going back to how they were being really coy with each other, like they knew they were in. Andrew Garfield didn't want to do it. He didn't want to. At the beginning, when they mentioned it to him, he didn't want to do it. And not for a bad reason, but he said, a 34-year-old man in spandex just don't seem right. But when he heard Toby was getting in the suit again, he's like,
fuck, he's showing me up.
If Toby's gonna do it, I gotta do it.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it. If the 40-plus-year-old man is gonna do it, then I guess.
If the 43-year-old man is gonna get in the suit again, I guess I'm gonna go too. Like,
it's like they all have the dad bod. It's like the dad bod Peter Parker from Miles Morales.
So, a couple other things before like we totally like dive back into No Way Home. About like the 3 main people in Marvel that like we followed through their whole adventure.
Cap, Iron Man, Thor. The holy trinity of the MCU.
Yes. So, talking about them a little bit, because this does tie into Spider-Man, because the first time you ever see Spider-Man, like, with any of the Avengers is in Civil War.
Is when 2 of the holy trinity are basically butting heads.
Yes. They're butting heads while Thor's in Asgard getting fat.
Yeah, Thor. No, he's not in Asgard getting fat. He's in Asgard getting answers about the Infinity Stones.
Yes, and then after that, you end up finding him Infinity War fat and lazy.
No,
talking.
in Endgame, fat and lazy.
Yes.
In Infinity War, he was fucking ripped.
Oh yes.
He had Stormbreaker. He was out there.
Oh yeah.
Just teleporting to the middle.
That was right when
Yeah, no.
That was right when Steve wasn't using the shield. He was using the two vibranium like blade gauntlet shields. Yes,
and
which he got
you
from
just
T'Challa, and all you see is like, oh, they're fighting and they're running.
They're getting their asses kicked, and all of a sudden you just see Thor get shot down. By the way, that's what I love about the Bifrost. The Bifrost isn't a teleportation device. The Bifrost is literally a gun that shoots you to another world.
Yes.
That's effectively what the Bifrost is. You're getting shot out of a giant space cannon, which I love.
That's awesome. It's always been.
But you literally see Thor, because Stormbreaker can activate the Bifrost. You literally see Thor come in, throw Stormbreaker as it's like cleaving through an army. It calls back to him. You hear the score swell, and you just hear him yell in his like guttural Asgardian voice, "Bring me Thanos!"
Yeah.
As he just fucking hammer downs like an entire army.
I love like the little side conversations when that happened though. It's like, oh yeah, we're in the middle of fighting, and Thor looks at
This is my
Steve.
friend the tree.
No, this is my friend the tree, and then he also looks at Steve. He's like, oh, you copied the beard. I see.
Got a haircut?
Got a haircut. Copied the beard. And T'Challa's just looking at them like,
what the fuck are you guys? Defend the fucking country, please! Like, what I love is like, oh yeah, this is my friend the tree. And this is a very good representation of who Steve Rogers is as a person, because he's like,
Steve Rogers.
It's just like, this is my friend the tree, as like, you just see Groot impaling 3 Chitauri. It's like, I am Groot! And you see Steve like, just Rogers. Go, he's just like, touching his chest like, I am Steve Rogers.
It's like, yes, I am here. But so talking a little bit about that, and now getting back on track to
Spiderman
and No Way Home.